folks, got another review here for you today. We will be reviewing the PUMA MagMax NITRO 2. Like all my reviews, I will be going over the nerdy details, discussing the fit, projecting the durability, ride, versatility, and value of the shoe. All of my reviews are timestamped for easier reference regardless of where and when buyers are shopping. If you have any questions regarding this shoe, you just let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer them in the comments below. Let's go ahead and dive right on into the nerdy details for the PUMA MagMax NITRO 2. This is a shoe I purchased for myself in my size of 8.5M directly from PUMA's website. This shoe was released in December of 2025. It is 9.4 ounces and it features an impressive 46 millimeters of heel stack with a 38 millimeter heel forefoot stack, for a 8 millimeter drop. It has a supercritical PUMA Nitro foam. Some folks complain about the Nitro foam, but I'll tell you what, it is a great daily trainer foam. I know there's like the Nitro Elite foam for more of their racing shoes, but for what I know for PUMA in particular, which is the Magnify, now the MagMax Nitro, get along with it just fine. It also has the famous PUMA grip. It's that real tacky, real durable rubber outsole. As I say in pretty much all of my reviews talking about outsoles, to me it's the gold standard. Most notable for this shoe, as big as it is, they do have quite a bit of coverage. It's only just that middle platform really, and a couple of these grooves here in the rocker, the forefoot part of the rocker, that have exposed foam, which is really refreshing to see in a daily trainer, even like a super trainer. You know, I think of like, I love the Rad UFO, but it has so much exposed foam that durability was a concern. But we'll get to durability in a little bit here, folks. It says here that it also has the power tape, which you can kind of see throughout here. So power tape, when I did my review for the regular Magnify, I was a little perplexed by it. And from my understanding, power tape's really there to help kind of keep the form of the shoe. I don't know how much that actually is something that is of significance, and how much of it might just be kind of like an aesthetic flair, but you know, I'm not really too well read on that particular element as far as like proving, disproving effectiveness of that, and might just be a feel thing, honestly. But I digress. Has an upper that is knit along with, well, I should say it's more like an engineered mesh mixed with knit for a lot of it. There's parts of it that feel knit, there's parts of it that feel like a mesh. The tongue itself is just entirely knit, which is super comfy. It's actually, I'm trying to see, I won't grab it, it's okay, sorry. But the Magnify 3 has a knit tongue as well, and that's something I loved about that shoe from PUMA. Get the same thing here. Right here in the heel has a pretty tall Achilles kind of flare here, and that's more of just kind of like the mesh kind of material there. It's pretty comfy. It's also up really high, so if you notice, like, you know, you get like the back of your foot irritated easily, I think maybe you wear no-show tabs, maybe consider wearing at least quarter socks. It's not the end of the world, but you know, just as far as like a creature preference kind of thing here. It is also $180. It is not available in wide sizes, unfortunately, but it does have quite a few colorways that are really fun looking for sure. Talking about fit for this shoe, a big issue I had with the first PUMA MagMax Nitro was that it was really narrow, and even if I changed the lacings, for a shoe that was meant to be kind of like your go-to partner for easy and long, kind of like set it and forget it kind of runs, I found that it was too constricting as far as its upper and its kind of overall width, but particularly even like in the toe box. I usually don't have the worst issues with toe box, but volume was usually more of what I had issues with. I had issues with both with the original, so I had to return it. I actually didn't even get to run into it. I put it on in the house, walked around for a second, and then I was like, I'm not gonna run in this. So then returned it. But this shoe, I'll tell you folks, they really widened it out, almost to the point that like this feels like, by PUMA standards, this feels like a wide or maybe even an extra wide shoe. I know I'm getting a little goofy with that, but like by their standards, that's what I'm trying to say here. Obviously, you know, some shoes like the Magnifier are available in wide. I would recommend you get those kind of shoes. If you have wider feet, just go ahead and get it. I know not all of them necessarily increase volume. They really focus more on width, but for all those folks there with toe box issues, this shoe feels like a wide shoe. If you change up the lacings, it feels like, again, by PUMA standards, a little bit more like an extra wide shoe, which is nice. Now, hey, I was out on some runs. The fit did feel noticeable, I'll say. It wasn't like it was completely roomy. I definitely think I had enough room. But I took this out on a 13-mile virtual half marathon run, and I actually made a video about it. But this shoe, it was good for what I wanted to do with it. I think the fit by the end of the run, though, was noticeable, where I was like, okay, this isn't the roomiest shoe, but it's not necessarily an active detriment on me, if that makes sense. Projecting durability for the shoe is interesting, because I'll show you this shoe first. So everything looks really nice here, especially for 60 miles in. Almost dang near spotless. Now, my mechanics suck. I've been the first to admit that. My running mechanics suck. This shoe has a little bit more wear, particularly like around the back, the heel, into that midfoot area. So like kind of like in that part of the rocker. And it's interesting because it's specifically the R in the word NITRO there that you see it. But down here, it's got kind of an inner scuff on where the exposed foam has that indent. I don't necessarily think that's awful, just because that's really the only spot that has exposed foam on this shoe. It's not like in the case of, like, again, a shoe that I adore aside from durability is the Rad UFO. The Rad UFO had kind of the issue where that you saw those kind of like scuffs and wear throughout the entire outsole, which is very concerning. With this, it's like it's the one spot that doesn't have that PUMA grip outsole rubber, which is kind of to be expected, folks. It is. You get wear on your tires. The tires can be as good as they are. You're eventually going to get wear on them. But 60 miles in, I'm used to a lot worse of like exposed foam getting broken down. Particularly also as a heavier runner, I can tear through my shoes a lot quicker. I'll be the first to admit that. But it definitely isn't something where I'm like, oh, pump the brakes. This isn't going to be a durable shoe. It's pretty rock solid. It's going to get dirtier for sure. I mentioned that heel tab here. I don't think the quality of my camera is good enough, but like, there's just some basic dirt here, and I think just sometimes that material really catches that. Do I think it'll tear? Maybe. Particularly if you are in like a running route where you have to change elevation a lot. I've always had issues where, like, if I'm going to and from a sidewalk, I might scuff my foot on like that high part of the sidewalk, but that's not the shoe's fault, not by any means. Discussing the ride versatility and value for this shoe. This is a very comfortable ride, folks. I love this ride. It is smooth, it is no nonsense, it's comfortable. I mean, it's ultimately, like, for somebody who isn't in a hurry to get anywhere and they want something that feels a little bit lively. I'm not saying you're zooming in this shoe, but if you need that little bit of, like, a little bit of a faster cloud, we'll say, right? Like, yeah, everyone's like, I want to be on clouds, I want to just float on by. Which, there's some shoes, I won't say their names, but, sometimes there's some marketing related to that. But, a cloud-like kind of ride is how I would explain this, but I would go as far as to say it's like, if you remember Dragon Ball Z, Goku had the flying nimbus, big flying cloud. That's what this reminds me of. It's not the fastest. I'm not saying you're zooming in this, but you know, it's moving a bit. You know, it's nice, right? Where are you going with this? Somebody might be asking. My point is that it's a comfortable ride, but it's not a cumbersome ride. It is something that I think you can get along with just fine. You're not going to be going super fast in the shoe, but kind of what I was saying with that 13-mile ride, it's going to be comfortable throughout even long runs. You might start to notice, oh yeah, this is not a race shoe, or like the shoe might not be made for like the long haul, but man, oh man, I am feeling comfy for what I am running. That's kind of where I am with this shoe. I ran 60 miles in it. It was kind of my go-to if my feet felt tired, my knees felt tired. I kind of threw them on and just kind of coasted. Maybe after a long, hard day of work, and if I was feeling kind of fried, didn't really want to review something that was a little trick or treat. Maybe I threw these on, which is always a treat when in my running lineup, particularly for when I'm doing reviews. So talking about versatility, I don't think that this is necessarily a race shoe, folks. I know I said I took it out for a half marathon race. I was doing that because I essentially move like a Sherman tank. I don't necessarily have the same giddy up as a lot of runners. I'll be the first to admit that. But if you are wanting comfort from a long variety of distances, or just needs, I would say that this shoe's great for you in that. It's a good, easy shoe. It's a good daily trainer. Again, like I say this a lot, but like if a daily trainer for you is, I want a shoe that's going to be comfortable. I don't need it to be, razzle dazzle. I think this is a good shoe in that regard. Talking about value, this shoe at $180, it's hard to make a sell on it, but you gotta remember, folks, shoes are getting more expensive. Tariff prices are going through the roof as far as some of these shoes. I think this shoe's direct competitor I would kind of throw in the ring would be the Nike Vomero Plus, not necessarily the premium, which is about $170. Get on sale like $120 usually. I think it's going to be a matter of preference. I think there's some differences there, and I could even do a comparison video if you're interested in that. But I think ultimately this shoe and that shoe kind of operate in the same kind of, maybe in the same kind of like airspace, where you want something that is a really premium daily trainer, but you don't necessarily want to go all the way into like the super trainer realm of things, where it's nothing but race foam. There's a couple really good options there, but I think this one is like for those that are kind of curious about maybe getting more into like super trainers, or like kind of getting more into the, well, let's throw everything in the kitchen sink at this shoe. Again, that's not for everybody, but because of that, it's nice that I think PUMA uses the Magnify as the next step from that. If you want to head more in the direction of just a daily trainer, not necessarily something that is like overkill max cushion, the Magnify is a high cushion shoe. It's nice that that's within PUMA's family. I know we don't, do comparisons within the family of shoes anymore, but it's nice that PUMA kind of seems to have a really tame lineup as far as getting an idea of where you might fall for your needs with running. Final thoughts for the PUMA MagMax NITRO 2. It's a great shoe. I want to give it the Banana Ice Award, and I really think that this is a shoe that is going to be for the fans of the max cushion trainers that don't necessarily want to feel like they're in molasses, right, when they're running in a max cushion shoe. Maybe you're wearing a shoe all day at work, but you're kind of moving around quite a bit. This is a nice shoe you could use as an option for athleisure. It's breathable for that regard. But I think think where it really shines is from the level of comfort that you'll have throughout runs in this shoe. Anywhere from 1-2 miles up through what I took it out on, which was like a half marathon, maybe beyond that. But I think that you'll be just fine in this shoe if you're not in any hurry to get anywhere. Does the weight feel like it's holding it back at times? No, not really. You know, like I think once you start getting into like the upper 10, maybe going into like 11, 12 ounce for shoes, that's where it starts to feel like, okay, this shoe's a little too heavy. I didn't really have that with this shoe. It felt like I was in a daily trainer, which is nice. You know, and it's a bit shy below, you know, the 10 ounce mark at 9.4 ounces, but you know, it's really, what am I trying to say? I'm sorry. It's really, it's nice to have something as an option where more doesn't mean slower, or it doesn't mean breaking the bank. You're not spending $250 on the shoe. I don't think there's any $250 daily trainers, and I say that out loud, but you know, we're getting there. I'm sure in another year or two that'll age like spoiled milk, but I do think the shoe does exist within lineups and shopping. Let me know if you have any questions with this shoe. It's definitely a popular trainer right now, so I would be more than happy to answer any questions. Curious to see what people's experience with this shoe's been. With that said, I hope you're all staying healthy and safe, and I'll see you all in the next review.